Hey guys, Fskin here. In this video I'm going to show you how to get better at kiting and killing any mob in the game and how to use your environment to your advantage. First of all, we are going to start with the elephant in the room, which is the skill issue. To kite enemies effectively, you need to learn the max range at which you can hit them. The distance is the same no matter the weapon type. Even if you have a pole arm, the pole arm doesn't have more range than unarmed or axes, which is a common misconception. A good way to learn and start gauging the distance correctly is to levitate or water walk against enemies who can't do the same, and you will slowly start to learn the effective range of your attacks. This is important for classic kiting. Against slow enemies which you can outrun, you can run away from them, turn around, and at max range hit them, turn around again, hit them again, and you will never get hit yourself if you do it correctly. Of course, this doesn't work with enemies that are so fast that when you turn around to hit them, they will reach you and always counter hit, like spiders and cockatrices. For enemies that you can't kite in the classic way, you'll have to slow them or stun them. All enemies in the game can be slowed. The Minotaur, the cockatrice, even bosses can be slowed. Not all of them can be stunned though. In the early games, stuns are very strong because basically everything except the Minotaur can be stunned. The most common and effective stuns are those which inflict paralysis, so potions of paralysis and the bear traps. Bear traps are very good because you can reuse them and you can lure enemies into them. You don't need line of sight, you don't have to take any risks. So if you encounter an enemy you can't kite in a classic way, stuns, especially bear traps, are some of the best things you can have. But the thing is, if you want to push your skill as a Barony player, there are many ways and techniques to do so without relying on resources. There are different ways of kiting that I'm going to show you here. Using corners for kiting is one of the most basic techniques in Barony. When you walk around the corner, there is a very lenient window where you can hit an enemy before they turn, and they won't hit you back. It's not impossible for a mob to hit you around the corner, but it is way more lenient for the player to do it to them than vice versa. So if you do it correctly, you will be able to corner hit mobs for free and just be able to get a hit in before they can approach you. Speaking of corners, there's also the technique which I call corner bullying. It works against ranged and magic enemies because they have a quirk that when you approach them, but they aggro you, they walk backwards to keep a distance between you and them. The best example for this is this specific gnome in the Gnomish Mines. If it's a lightning staff gnome, you hit him at the right angle, he will just continuously walk backwards, he will be looking at you, so he's aggroed, but he can't hit you if you do it correctly, so you can just kill him for free. You can extrapolate this to any situation in the game with a ranged and magic enemy at the corner and get multiple free hits on them. So now that we have learned that corner kiting is good, the best thing you can do is kite around an object with multiple corners. You can use most objects in the game for this, for example pillars consisting of a single tile. This is great for kiting without actually moving through the map, which means you can focus on a single enemy without attracting more of them. But there's even better objects for kiting. For example, fountains. Fountains are basically the best thing you can find if you want to kite any enemy. Remember when I told you that the player has way more leniency for hitting enemies around the corner? Kiting around the fountain basically cranks up this effect. You can also do this with sinks and chests. Fountains and sinks are indestructible, which also means that the Minotaur can't pass through them. So in theory, you can kite the Minotaur around these objects. I don't recommend it though, because the Minotaur is super fast and you'll have a hard time killing it without making a mistake that will cost your life. Just wanted to mention it since it is pretty funny. If you don't have an object to kite around, but you also don't want to kite for long distances because you're scared of attracting other enemies, what you can do is circle kiting. Just do what you would do during regular kiting, but do it in a circle. And the best thing about this kiting method is spawn rooms have the perfect dimensions for circle kiting. Luring enemy into the spawn room is a good way to dispose of them one by one. Against magic enemies, as long as you have some distance between you, strafing is kind of free. Just walk from right to left and they won't be able to hit you because they don't pre-aim. It's easy as that. For ranged enemies, it is a little bit harder because the projectiles are so fast. If your strafing speed is too low, you may get hit regardless. So the best thing you can do in that case is predict when they will shoot, because as long as they don't lose aggro in the meantime, they will shoot at the same pace. So you can predict when the next shot is going to come out, and then look in the direction you want to dodge in, because you're faster when walking forward, and dodge. If you are fighting a mage, but you don't have anything ranged to damage them, only melee, what you can do is what I call bounce kiting. Between spells, run at the enemy, hit them, and run away again. This is not easy, but if you're fast enough, and if you do it correctly, you can hit them multiple times without them being able to hit you. There are many ways to kill enemies with basically no risk. One of them I have already teased in the beginning of the video. If you levitate or water walk, you can hit enemies at max range without them being able to hit you back. You can also use water, especially Olympic swimming, to aid in your regular kiting, because most enemies are not able to traverse water, especially in the swamp. There isn't a single levitating or water walking enemy in Barony. The only levitating enemies which will make this technique obsolete you will find in the late game or in the underworld and hell, so imps, cockatrices, shadows and such. And last but not least, my favorite object to aid you in killing enemies, without it being an object to kite around, is the gate. You can shoot through gates, which is quite funny because there isn't a single enemy in the game that can do anything about this. You can use any ranged weapon, which isn't a magic weapon, and just find the right spot and the right distance from the gate and just shoot through it. You can just bully enemies to death through the gate. They can't do anything except watch and die. And if you have a melee build and a pickaxe or any means of digging, you can do this. Remove one of the corners the gate is placed at, and you can just hit them at the corner without them being able to retaliate. So I hope you learned a thing or two about kiting and killing enemies in Barony, and you will be able to improve your skills and hopefully beat the game if you haven't done so yet. Regarding my mod that I teased in the last video, it's currently being beta tested on the Barony Discord. If you want the beta files, you can find them there. It's as good as finished, and I'm pretty confident that it will have a release soon. And when that happens, you will find out about it on this very channel. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace!